Games come and go from the marketplace all the time, but if they are successful and well loved, they will often be brought back into print or released in a new edition. One example of this is Antoine Bauza's Ghost Stories, a cooperative game for 1 to 4 players released by Belgian publisher Repos Production in 2008. Players each represent ninjas or skilled warriors who are protecting a village against the attack from various ghosts, led by Wu Fang. You must defeat Wu Fang in order to win. I've had lots of great moments with Ghost Stories over the years, primarily at conventions when I'm playing far too late. Everyone is just trying to stay alive until we finally see Wu Fang on the table and then try to take him down. Of course, there are other leaders as well, so it has some unfamiliarity of what you're actually going to face at the end of the game. So Ghost Stories had a couple of expansions. It's been off the market for a little while, and now it is brought back in a new game by designer Antoine Bauza and Repos Production, Last Bastion, which is once again a cooperative game for 1 to 4 players, in which you are trying to protect an area being attacked by a horde of monsters. This time now it's a fortress, and it has more of a fantasy setting rather than an Asian setting. So if you prefer one over the other, you can hunt down Ghost Stories. Last Bastion, though, is the game that's on the market now. Let me talk about how this works. Here's the setup for Last Bastion, which will look very familiar to you if you have played Ghost Stories in the past. You have the bastion that you are protecting. It has a layout of 3x3 tiles that are arranged at random, so you get a different setup every time you play. You have the horde boards on the outside where the monsters will gather. Each player has a hero board outside of that, so I've set up for a 3-player game, although the 3rd player is off camera because I need an overhead setup to show larger games like this. So to win, you must defeat the warlord that starts on the 9th card from the bottom in this deck. You have all the other horde and some more monsters at the bottom, and if the deck runs out before you defeat the warlord, then you have lost the game. You can also lose if all the heroes die. You can also lose by getting 3 Grasp of Evil tokens on the board, and you have lost. So 1 way to win, 3 ways to lose. It seems kind of a standard in cooperative games. You have lots of different warlords in the game, so you do not know what you will be facing because you will randomly pick one to place into the deck. On a turn, you have the horde phase and then the hero phase. On the horde phase, if your board is not full of 3 monsters, you draw the top card from the deck. If it's your own color or black, it will go on your own board. Otherwise, it goes on the board of other players or non-players, depending on how many people are in the game. Some monsters have a come into play effect, and we'll have something on the left here. This one is draw another monster. So you put this monster down somewhere, draw another one. It's blue. It's going to go where I am. I can put it here. This one has no come into play effect. Other monsters might have an ongoing effect. They'll have something in the middle, and then an effect when you defeat them on the right-hand side. So nicely organized here. That's the horde phase. If your board is filled, you do not draw a card, but instead you suffer a penalty based on whatever board it is. So on the blue board, you have to turn yourself face down, and then you cannot move on your turn except to stand up, which will really hinder you because you can only take an action in the space where you are located or fight the monsters adjacent to you, assuming you are not in the central square. If the red board is full at the start of the player's turn, or if this is a non-player, you have to do all the effects as you go around the table, regardless of whether someone is playing or not. So if the red board is full, the red player must lose a life. Every player starts with 3 lives. If there's no red player in the game, somebody has to lose a life. On the yellow board, someone has to roll the corruption die. On the green board, then you must remove the bottom card from the deck. So if the green board is full too long, you remove everything, and if you remove the warlord, then you've lost the game already. So you must fight the monsters in order to keep the boards clean. Otherwise, your movement will be hindered, your life will be squandered, the timer will run out, and you'll roll the corruption die, which is usually terrible for you. After the horde phase, you have the hero phase, where the hero can move and either use the action of the bastion tile they're on, or attack monsters. You cannot do both, except if you are Tindara, or Sindara, who has the ability to do both. Use the bastion tile, and attack monsters, and move in the order of her choice. Every hero has a different power, and they are all relevant in different ways depending on the situation. So you get different combinations of people. There are 8 heroes total in the game, each with a separate power, and I'll talk about them briefly a bit later. On a turn, now I've done the horde phase. The hero can move to show you a straightforward move. I can move diagonally to this space, and then I can attack both of these monsters. The base roll is 3 dice. It has a joker with the whites, and the other 5 symbols on there are the 5 colors of the monster, the yellow, green, red, blue, and black. I can attack both monsters if they are in the corner where I am located. I roll them. I did not get a red or a blue. I got nothing. My turn was wasted. Now, instead of doing that, let's say instead of attacking the monsters, and I'm not just saying that because I did a poor roll, I could be in this space and I use the power of the tile, which is to roll 2 dice, a red and black, and you take equipment tokens of that color. Each hero starts with an equipment token of their color, so I have 1 blue. How about that? Attack by the horde. I start with 1 blue at the beginning of the game. I just rolled a black and a red, so now I add those to my collection. And that would be the end of my turn because I moved, I used the action of the space, and I am done. If Sindara goes now, draw the top card, you get black. It has a come and play effect, which means you get a Grasp of Evil token on your hero. So Sindara just lost her ability to both use a Bastion tile and attack. But she can still move. She can still attack. She has a red token. I have a blue token, and I'm in the same space, so we can cooperate and sort of pool our tokens for this area. She says, I'm going to attack the monsters. All right, I got a... Whoa, perfect roll. I'll count this as red. This is 2 blue. These monsters are killed. We get the going out of play effects. Well, the active player loses one of their tokens. I lose the equipment token instead of the call to arms token. I'll talk about that in a moment. And I have to roll the corruption die, which is blank, which is the best thing you can do because otherwise you have to draw a monster, lose a token, lose a life, lose a token and a life, and advance the Grasp of Evil token from the monster that rolled this. So if we had rolled that symbol, a Grasp of Evil would be placed on the board ahead of that monster. It's his last evil act before dying, is corrupting this space. Oh. Wow. That was very briefly a quick rundown of possibilities. There's still 8 other tiles to talk about. There is a net. When you use the power of the net, you are going to put it onto a monster that has an ongoing ability or some other effect, and you will cancel that as long as the net is in play there. You can get the trap, and you have to put it on your own board. So on the green player's turn, if they got the trap, they could put it here. And when you put a monster on that trap, a non-warlord monster, it dies immediately. You get no benefit or penalty from it dying because the trap took it out, not a hero. But so be it. This space lets you swap 2 monsters or move 2 monsters. This one lets you eliminate 2 Grasp of Evil markers. And remember, 3 on the board loses the game. This can also remove ones from the heroes. Some creatures will also come into play with them or collect them during their turn. So if this one is on the board at the start of your turn, it will get a Grasp of Evil token. If it's still on the board at the next turn, this will advance onto this space and now eliminate the ability of the trap. And then we'll get another one next time. And then eventually you could lose the game if you just don't kill this single monster through the Grasp of Evil markers. What else? You can go to this space and you can get an equipment token of the color of your choice, or you can bring someone back to life. Yes, you have only 3 hearts to start with. You can collect more during the game based on different effects. If you lose them all, then you are dead. You are removed. Your token is gone. If someone comes over here, they can bring you back to life. You will come back at the inn, I believe it is. You will no longer have a special ability. We'll just flip your card over, and now you are just a plain wounded hero. You're back in the game, though, which is better than nothing. If you die again, then you are dead for real, instead of mostly dead. In this space, you can spend a life point to eliminate a non-warlord monster from play. So if it's too strong, it's about to have a dire effect on you, the board is full and you're going to lose a life or roll a corruption die or whatever, and you just want it gone, you can spend the life to do that. With the banner, you can put up a colored flag, and all monsters of that color will have their resistance reduced by 1. So if you have a 1 power monster and you put up the red banner, now you just have to go over and attack it, and whatever you roll, that monster will go away with a resistance of 0. You still have to go threaten it though. Shake your fist at it and make sure it goes away. This final spot, you can give one player 1 life and 1 movement, either yourself or someone else. So these are the different powers that combine together that you will use, or you will attack other monsters. And there will be a constant flood of monsters onto the board, just depending on how things go. Because lots of times you will have to roll the corruption die and it will say put out a monster, and then the monster you put out will have a come into play effect that hits someone else, or it'll make you draw other monsters, and it'll just be a cascade of monsters, and now you have to readjust your plans, trying to figure out what you can do to stay alive, keep the boards clear, not throw away all your life, and not die, so that you can at least see the warlord and take a shot at them. There's a quick overview of Last Bastion, and it might be served better by watching a complete playthrough of the game, which I am not due. I've not done those before, so you'll have to watch for one somewhere else. But it gives you the gist of the game, where you are going to have the Horde do things. If there are ongoing effects for the Horde cards, it might be lose a token, or advance a Grasp of Evil marker, or roll the die, do something else. Those will keep piling up, and it gives you an incentive to go take out those monsters. But the problem is, they're going to be monsters over and over and over again. It seems like it starts very small, where you just have 1 or 2 monsters, you're going to take them out. However, many of the monsters will have a resistance of 3 or 4, where the only way to defeat them is to pool lots of equipment tokens and take them out. Except some monsters have an effect where you can no longer use equipment tokens, or it will lock one of the combat dice, or it can't be defeated, or you can't use the jokers on the dice against it. And you don't know when those are coming up. Of course, you see the monsters that are already on the board, where you will often have a plan to say, okay, well, I'm going to move here, I'm going to get these tokens, I'm going to lay out the net here, so it'll stop the Grasp of Evil markers from advancing off that monster, so that we can come over and use that space. Except then you turn over a monster that has some come into play effect, and my power is now removed, so I can't do the thing that I had planned to do. And this happens repeatedly as you play. So the game has little ebbs and flows, where often a turn is very straightforward. I turn over a card, I carry out my plan. If we had talked about things before, roll a dice, it's dead. Or roll a dice, I fail. And that was it for the turn. Flip over a card, move, roll, fail. Done. 15 seconds. And then there's much longer turns when you come up with something, or multiple monsters come on the board, or you're trying to lay out a plan for how you can defeat something that will defeat you in 3 turns if you don't do anything about it. So you have that ebb and flow of strategy, and then just doing stuff and reacting and seeing how things work out. So it's very a choppy game, I guess I would say, just because it has those moments of things come and go. You have a plan, and then you have to readjust based on whatever comes up. Or the corruption die comes and you lose your power, you lose a token that you were going to spend, possibly your call to arms token. Every player starts with one, and you can use the call to arms token to use the power of any Bastion tile. You don't have to be on it, and it can even be covered by a Grasp of Evil marker. You can still use it with this. But of course, if you have to lose a token and this is your only token, then it goes away. So your plans can just vanish immediately based on what you thought you had. It gives you an incentive to spend things earlier rather than risk losing them, because that often happens. So there's all these things that just cascade down on you. You have some plan. Oh, now the blue board is filled before the blue player's turn comes around, and now they have to lie down at the start of their turn so they can't walk and do the thing that you were desperately in need of them to do. So I played 4 times on the review copy from Asmodee North America, which distributes the title in the US and elsewhere. 3 times with 2 players, once with 3 players. We won the 3-player game. The 2-player games, we saw the warlord once. Yes, we saw him once. That was it. Other time, we didn't even get to that point because we just died. The boards kept filling up. Bad things were happening. The Grasp of Evil are just flooding onto the board. And the Call to Arms tokens are crucial for the Grasp of Evil tokens. I don't recall them in Ghost Stories, but it's been a while since I played Ghost Stories. If you get 3 of those on the board, then you lose. And there's only 1 space that lets you remove them. There's some monster effects that will let you remove them as well. But if that space is covered, well, then you can't go onto the space and activate it to remove the Grasp of Evil markers. So you use the Call of Arms often, at least that's what we've done in our games, to remove those Grasp of Evil tokens primarily from that space. And now you can go use that space and you can remove others that are piling up on monsters and about to be brought onto the board, or that are on hero boards holding everyone up from doing whatever they want to do. Because the other powers are extremely useful as well. You have 1 hero who gets an equipment token of the color of their choice at the start of every turn. That's great, because then you have some ammunition in reserve if the dice don't come your way. You hate to spend the tokens, but it's better than losing against the monster. You have another hero that can enchant a monster, any monster with a token, not a warlord, and the resistance is reduced by 1. One of the other heroes that's on the board can fight 2 monsters at once, even if they are not in a corner. So it's the archer. You just look where the archer is. You look in the 4 directions, and you choose 2 monsters in those directions. So there's a dwarf character who can roll 4 combat dice rather than 3. So that's good. There's someone else who can re-roll their combat dice, which is also really good. Almost all of them are really good, and you suffer when they are covered. And you're just devastated. And yet things keep coming at you, and you have to, stem the flood from all directions. You got to plug that dike and just keep things up long enough, because you have to survive until the warlord is out and then go after them. That's all that matters in the end, is defeating that warlord. So how are you going to do that? Because initially you don't know what color it is. So you want to stockpile equipment tokens so that you can defeat the warlord when they come out, because the resistance is usually extremely high, but you don't know what color it is. And of course you have to stay alive to even get there. So you often are spending tokens left and right. You'd love to have the standard in the color of the warlord. You can't guarantee that's going to happen. You can't guarantee anything is going to happen. And also you can't defeat it with a trap, because that's too easy. So you got all these things piling up against you, which I think I've said a few times. I'm repeating myself now, so this should be the end of the video. My cat has knocked over the box. Where's the box? Curse my cat. It's a much easier monster to take care of, though. I just throw him out the door. There you go. A quick overview of Last Bastion.